So he started buying all this stuff.
Perfect. These will all be on the same one. All right. See that? And then we can put that next to the other.
So he started
Highlighting the.
Okay, Mike, you can either confirm on here or send me a text to let me know if the YouTube audio is functioning properly.
Okay, I'm looking right now.
Thank you.
and I'm like, I'm done. I said, do you know what? I mean, I don't want to say my Jeep was cheaper, but my Jeep was a hell of a lot nicer. Side by side, I got air conditioning.
Okay, Amy, it looks like we're good on YouTube and Zoom. I'm just gonna stay logged in Zoom for the meeting. And then I'll stay logged in on YouTube too for a little bit.
Thank you so much. And then I'll text you if we have any issues with the audio.
Okay, I'll be watching. It's just like 10 seconds behind, so I'll be watching.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, thanks.
And this so that they're side by side.
That's how I feel about the Jeep, side by side. So much side by side.
I'll tell you what, we're glad we're.
I bet you are.
When I met him, I told him, this is what I've been real estate. It's been great, so. I'll give you this.
Really?
Met a lot.
We had a lot.
It's an expensive hobby.
Well, you know, when. I get our help.
Oh, just talking. Yeah. Don't know where my grab it. Oh, we need to get you one. So I have one. Oh, we need to get yours.
What is Sean? What is that our next meeting? The 15th?
No, we have one first.
Wait a minute, there's council meeting.
They moved up, remember?
All right, it's but it's okay.
Do we have a city?
now.
Do we have a city council meeting?
Oh, it is old. Yeah, really old. Never been out.
Try one.
We have a city council meeting next week.
Hello.
No.
How are you there, Andy?
Have we already looked in them?
You ready for this? Oh, sure.
Yeah, we have one coming.
Stay focused. Hey, Julie. Hi, Julie. I just told her I need to be.
Let's do a shot.
Just.
You didn't even read my text.
Oh.
Oh, getting a little ugly.
What's that?
Yeah.
And I are terrible.
Yeah, look at your text. It's already coming back. Good. I haven't read everything. That's. All right.
What are you guys doing tonight? We should play music. Huh? You guys want music?
So the microphone volume is a little,
Music at your meeting?
high, I guess.
Some elevator music,
You can turn it down.
a little, soothing.
Lori, we're not.
Overall, it's just, it may be on apologize. We're live.
No, not YouTube live, we're zooming it, it's live right now.
We are live.
You're not, but you're going on YouTube,
We
right?
need to have all.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah, we will, but this is Zoom.
I'm lovely.
No, we're just having audio difficulties, and so like computer guys are on with Amy trying to set it up all day. So it's just been running for quite a while.
So it's down above or below zero. Okay.
You guys moved the podium now.
Yes, because the mic is interfering with these.
Yeah,
It's
they're all
good
done for a
to
while.
get back to.
You can walk by it and you can hear it back.
Yeah. Test. Yeah, they're a little bit better. So, in fact, they're a sound guy.
Oh, check.
Test, test, test. Oh,
We're on live.
I didn't know that helped a lot. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate your help. Okay, hopefully I don't bug you again.
That's why I asked. That's why I asked.
Oh, my. I think everybody gets sometimes.
It will be great to have an alternate here.
And then I'll report on my phone as a backup too, but it sounds like, I mean, we've tested everything 3 times today. I'm very hopeful. Here's your.
Okay.
Yes, I saw that.
I really should quit my day job and start making signs. It's quite remarkable, really.
We need to pull up people's property, so you can do it.
I can do it. Handmade with love. Smileys and hearts and such.
Let's hope it doesn't rain.
Don't want the rain. That's not good. No bueno. Oh, thank you.
Just as a reminder, any of those that have come in earlier, if you can make sure that you sign in tonight, so we have a record of those in attendance, please.
See watching.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Let's make everything awkward for you. Oh. Dana, are we missing a chair? No, it's okay. I think, I haven't heard otherwise. Well, thank you for doing that.
Down off of the roundabout here at the bottom of 700.
I've actually never been into Florida.
Very,
Totally fine.
very generous.
It's actually.
Yeah.
That's probably what.
I don't know why we.
No, I think so too.
Yeah, they did. Good folks. Perfect. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The only thing I don't like is stupid here. They eat everything. Everything. It's quiet. I was in Clinton. Trying to call. I could sleep for 2 weeks because it was quiet. Yeah. We need some noise. Hi, Manya. How are you?
Are you tonight? Am I what? Are you by me tonight? I am by you. Exciting. So, Joe must be.
They had this strange notion.
So, Amy, is Jeff absent tonight then?
No, he's just one over.
Jeff Bolingbroke.
Oh, Jeff is absent. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I thought you said Jim and I'm like, no, he's right here.
No. I said Jeff because.
But Manya may have been blocking your view. No. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's asked to be excused.
Oh, so where's it? It's down in the middle.
Oh, right up here.
Stream share going.
Hi, there's the record button right there. It's recording on this computer. Yes, and it's live. Mike and I did that to test. Yep. Now, backup going as well.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. Well, hopefully these mics are working. If you get to the point you can't hear, please wave at us. They've been working on them. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to our Pleasant View Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, October 20th, 2022. It's now 6 p.m. We'll start. There's a few ground rules that we're going to try to keep moving because we have a lot on our agenda. We will try to keep things moving along. I understand there's probably a lot of you are probably here for a certain item specifically, and it's a little bit later in the agenda. So we will try to keep things moving along for that agenda item. We'd like to go ahead and start tonight with a opening prayer, reading or expression of thought, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Julie Farr, please.
We've chosen to give an opening prayer. Our Father in heaven, we as citizens of Pleasant View are grateful to gather tonight. We express gratitude for this amazing country that we live in, that we have the freedom, that we can gather, that we can listen to different opinions, that we can make decisions based on the best interest of citizens. We pray that tonight that we might be thoughtful in our deliberations and that we might be courteous and respectful to all who are here. We appreciate the citizens of Pleasant View, their willingness to be involved in the political process. And we pray for peace and as we go forward with this meeting, in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Farr. I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. We welcome you anytime that we're meeting. We meet at least once a month, if not twice a month, depending on the agendas that are put before us. So we'd love to have the audience participation whenever you guys can come. Specifically, even better yet, since one of the items that will be addressed tonight is our general plan. Anytime that comes, we really encourage all of these citizens to help us give input for those larger public hearings, because that's a big impact for us. And that will be used tonight. First of all, I'd like to ask for, is there any of the commissioners that everybody's had a chance to read the agenda, and there's the declaration of conflicts of interest. Is there anybody on the commission tonight that needs to declare any conflicts of interest for tonight's agenda?
No.
Hey, seeing none, we'll move forward for the common consent. These are approval of the minutes, considering of minutes from the Planning Commission meetings held on the following dates: January 6th, February 17th, April 7th, May 5th, and June 2nd, 2022, all of the above. We can do this all in one as an approval or non-approval, assuming everybody's had a chance to read and send any adjustments or changes into staff. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes under Planning Commission item number 2 for January 6th, February 17th, April 7th, May 5th, and June 2nd of 2022.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, it looks unanimous for approval for the consent. I'd like to go ahead and we're going to move forward to our public hearings. We have administrative considerations. We have 3 items on our docket tonight. We will be the approving body for these tonight. And so we will go through, these are public hearings. So we will open up, most of these items we will open up with staff making a presentation to the commission, followed by the petitioner to add any notes at that point, and then followed by the commission that will open up as a public hearing. We're going to try to keep our time limited just to make sure that we're not extending. So we'll hold comments to about 3 minutes. We'll close that and then we'll have a discussion. So that's kind of the protocol that we'll face for tonight. Okay, we'll go ahead and start with public hearing administrative item number 1, plot amendment for the Willowbrook Village subdivision, combining lots 3, 4, and 5 into a single lot located at Lynn Street, 2243 North on Highway 89. We'll go ahead and ask staff to give her the presentation this time.
Happy to do so. Thank you. So before you this evening is a plat amendment, and this is actually some modification of the lot lines or a lot line adjustment to combine 3 lots into 2 lots. And so looking at the standards and the requirements and the zoning, there were not issues that the staff had or were aware of. And at this time, we recommend the approval of this, but subject to DRC comments. And one of the things to note with this, and it's a little bit of a new process, we are working and these petitioners have brought forward to the city council to remove the easements that basically cross over those lines. Let me kind of show you on the map. There are some easements here and here, and the city council approved those contingent on outreach to the other applicable utilities. That outreach has occurred. From what I understand with this applicant, they have heard back from the majority of the utilities. If there is any type of outreach in the next couple of weeks that comes back negatively, that will go back to the city council and may come back to this group. The same thing with the next application as well. So just as a heads up with that, but for the most part, it's to combine the lots, and I don't anticipate any issues from the city side, and our public works director has recommended approval of that as well, to remove those easements to combine those lots. So I don't know if there's any questions this evening about the lot line adjustments being proposed.
Do we have the petitioner or the applicant available tonight? Can we have you come up, state your name and address, please?
Tyler Howland, 14788 Castle Valley Drive, Bluffdale, Utah, 84065. Here to answer any questions you may have.
Easier, huh?
Yeah.
Have you, my only question is, this lot's been looked at for a few different things before, and you've seen the requirements and everything else. So I know we've run into this a little bit in that area before with the height restrictions and some of the easements. It sounds like we're getting that taken care of. And so you're well aware with what staff you worked with those, and that'll work with kind of what your desire to do with this property. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Questions from the commission? Okay, thank you.
That was easy.
Let's go ahead and do I have a motion to open this as a public hearing?
I make a motion that we open this to a public hearing in considering the adjustment, changing the 3 referent lots into 2 lots.
We've got a motion on the table from Commissioner Farr. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second by Dean Stokes. All in favor of opening a public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're now in a public hearing. This is where, on this one, where anybody that has a question, comment, or would like to make a comment on this, we're going to keep it to 3 minutes. But if you have a question on the Willowbrook subdivision lot amendment, please come forward at this time.
For lots 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, and 5.
Another one next.
Oh, that's right. We got another one.
Sorry.
Any questions or comments at this time from the public? Hearing none, I'd take a motion that we close the public hearing at this time.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing on the subdivision amendment.
We have a motion by Jim Cummings. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Manya. All in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now it's open for commission discussion. Are there any other questions for staff at this time, or comments or questions?
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
I agree.
Then make a motion.
I'm good.
On the left, throw it right at you.
I will make a motion that we approve public hearing item A, the plot adjustment for the Willowbrook Village subdivision, combining lots 3, 4, and 5 into a single lot located at Lynn Street, 2243 North and Highway 89.
And would you like that subject to the DRC comments as well?
Subject to the DRC comments.
Oh, into 2 lots. Sorry.
Into 2 lots.
The next one's a single lot. I apologize.
Okay, into 2 lots.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Any second?
Second that motion.
Second by Chad. All in favor? Any discussion at this time? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks unanimous. For that.
Sorry, it's kind of messy with the 2.
No,
To back.
we'll go ahead and we'll move on to item 3B. This is 3B is plot amendment for the Willowbrook Village subdivision, combining lots 6 and 7 into a single lot located at Lynn Street, 2243 and Highway 89. So for those keeping track out in the audience, this is actually right across the street. They're combining the lots on this side of the street and they're combining some lots on the other side of the street. So if you're able to keep track of the craziness up here. We'll go ahead and we'll open this up for staff to give us a quick discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is very similar to the last proposal as we have development coming in on both of these lots. And so this is the applicant's a Kidstown daycare center, and they're looking to combine these two lots, and the same process with the removal of the easements with the city council is applicable here. And it would remove the line here and have this as one single lot. So if there's any questions.
Any questions for staff? We'll go ahead and ask the applicant. Is the applicant available tonight? If you will, state your name and address, please, for the record.
Kevin Duncan with Kidstown, 4757 Southwest Park Drive, Roy, Utah. We're excited to be here tonight. We're excited to build a nice big childcare center that will have a great after-school program. It has an all-purpose gym added to it that we can have about 60, 65 kids after school. So we're kind of excited to be part of Pleasant View. So we have 4 other daycares. This will be our 5th one.
Okay, questions for the applicant? And go ahead. A quick question. This is also something that stemmed from a prior project that never went through at that time. There was concerns both from the audience and from the commission in the past from the traffic that will be going in there. And will that come back to us as a subdivision approval, or will that go to the DRC?
So the site plan will come back.
The site plan will come back?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's just this is only for
It's just to combine the
zoning,
lots.
for the combining the lots. So I just want to make sure we had another pass of that, because that was a question, is the traffic flow in and out? And it sounds like we're going to have quite a bit of volume coming in and out.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because that was kind of a question at that point. So any other questioners for the petitioner? Thank you very much. Okay, we can go ahead and we can open for a public hearing. We have a motion to open.
Motion to open it for a public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Dean Stokes, a second by Chad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's approved to combine and move forward. Open lot, sorry. Open public hearing. I'm jumped ahead of myself. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a comment at this time on this lot combination? Anyone from the public that would like to make a comment on this item? Not hearing any comments, can we have someone make a motion to close the public hearing at this time?
I'll make,
a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, motion by Chad. Do we have
I'll second it.
Julie's second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're closed public hearing. Now discussion from the commission. Any questions, thoughts, concerns?
I got nothing. These are pretty easy.
They're easy. You
Yeah.
got to go through the mechanics of it, though. That's the part of it. Do we have a motion on the table then?
Sure. I'll motion to approve the Willowbrook Village subdivision amendment lot 6 and 7 as presented by staff for approval.
Would you like that subject to the DRC comment? Oh,
Subject to the,
never mind. It's already approved. Sorry, Dana.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second to approve. Any discussion from the commission at this time on the motion on the table? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. I'm trying to make sure I'm saying the name so we can get the minutes afterwards. So it does become a little redundant, but we have procedures that we get to follow a little bit. Our next item is 3C, which is plot amendment for the Angel Heights subdivision, adjusting the lot lines of lot 15 located at 633 West, 3500 North. And this is an item that we approve or not approve. let's go ahead and have staff go ahead, and open up with the discussion.
This one's a little bit different. So, I mean, it's another lot line adjustment, but a little bit different. So there's a applicant that's desiring to put a residential unit upon this property and looking for a lot line adjustment to accommodate the desired plans for a single family home. And so with this, the property is located at 633 West, 3500 North. Parcel numbers included in the packet materials. And they're looking for an expansion of 1,403 square feet, pulling in from the neighboring property. They've received approval from the neighboring property owner. And we verified that if this adjustment is to occur, it will allow for maintenance of the required lot sizes and requirements within the code. And so if you look at this, there's the line here where it would pull in that additional square feet.
Is it just moving over to the other, into the other area?
It's just pulling more of the square footage into this property.
And will any of the easements have to change accordingly, or?
That's on the red lines. Yeah,
Uh,
it's going to depend if the, if they can adjust their building to avoid the current PUE, which I think that they can, and then they won't have to go through a PUE vacation. It'll just remain in place. It just will kind of cut through their backyard rather than be against the line.
And if the easements do need to be adjusted, that's something that goes to the city council.
If the easements have to be changed, okay. And how will we know? Is that when it's finalized before their layout? That'll be finalized, so they'll know before they start building, get permit or anything on that.
But I brought it to their attention on the red line plat to make sure that that wasn't going to be a problem for them. But for the plat amendment, it doesn't affect the plat amendment.
All right. Any other questions for staff on the proposal? Do we have the applicant here tonight? If you state your name and address, please.
Cindy Passo, and current address is 650 West Alberta Drive
Okay.
in Pleasant View.
And this one looks pretty easy, but we'll just ask, does anybody have any questions for the applicant on the proposal? Go ahead and make it real easy.
Another easy.
This is an easy one, so thank you very much. Okay, we'll motion to open up public hearing at this time.
I'll make a motion that we open for public hearing.
We have a motion by Commissioner Farr. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Yeah, I think we got Dean beat him to the second. All in favor of opening public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll go ahead and we're public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to make comment? Could you please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Anton Johnson. I'm the property owner of record, together with my wife, Rosemary Johnson, sitting here in this room. I'm glad to see you, Miss Tiffany. This is our first time meeting, although we've been close by as residents in the neighborhood. I'm a little concerned about a confusion that I see in terms of the street address. My address is 729 West, 3500 North. Did I hear the previous statement that this property under consideration is on 3500 North?
We have an approximate address right now. The address hasn't been assigned by the county, if that's correct. Dana, would you mind checking?
Okay, all right. I don't think that that's worth your time any more than this. However, I'm more so concerned that I don't have any knowledge of change in the property lines right next to our property of ownership. So I'm interested and I'm concerned a little about communication with the impending new neighbor.
So which lot are you?
It's not straightforward as you look at it. There is, well, if you see it, can I approach the map?
Of course.
Yeah, please. And yeah,
Or here's the pointer.
You'll make sense of it. There's I don't know if this strip
If you got it.
easement from Alberta Drive to 3500 North, or if that's part of an oddly shaped property ownership. But what needs to happen is some transfer between that new lot, the building lot, because they're stymied with some zoning consideration, some homeowners consideration. That's why this acreage is changing. According to a conversation I've had with Mr. Passau, Jeff. So it's between 729 and this new lot, and there's an extension of some of the ownership from down here, lot 630. And as far as I know, 650 doesn't really exist except maybe vacant land. Maybe it's a residential lot of record. But as you can see, this long strip comes up the hill, and it's kind of well, it's a construction roadblock between us. So I need to see that, as the owner of record, I need to see that it's not putting us in a detrimental position by changing that boundary line.
So are you the owner of record of this one or which lot?
29.
oh, 729 right here.
This one here. So Amy, do you know what this is?
I don't. I can hop on Uber GeoGizmo.
Yeah, please.
I don't mean to interrupt.
Oh, please do.
So that map, it is confusing. So most of that land was my grandfather's, Bud Wardle. And he sold to create Angel Heights like 15 years ago. And so that 650 where we're currently living, that's my dad's land. And the extension that we are hoping for is just taking like a triangle of his land. As far as the sliver, it's weird. I don't know why my grandpa did it, but 630, I think, is the Chris Critchlow's property. And it was a permanent easement that my grandpa gave to Chris Critchlow, so that they had enough of an easement to build their garage. And I don't know why, but he put it all the way up to that road at the time, instead of just ending it at the end of Critchlow's land. And so that little strip is actually the Critchlow's property. Well, it's an easement that's under the Chris Critchlow's name. And so the extension we are requesting is not going to affect that easement because it's under Chris Critchlow's name. It would just be kind of a triangle that would then end at that line.
So if I'm understanding right, then you're going to go clear to this and that blocks off any access from the top. Is that right?
We would not. Can I also approach the map?
Can we put a pointer up to, let's go give
You
us.
said pointers. Can you?
These are the video microphone. Okay.
It,
To that line, past that line. Thank you. So we kind of come from that corner, and then we're just requesting to extend to that line. But this is just vacant. That's going to kind of stay vacant. Technically, our plot does kind of extend out to here. But this is just like this weird strip that I guess is 658 is the Critchlow's property that my grandpa put into his name as a permanent easement. And then this house is where we're currently living. This is my dad's house while we.
and where do you access your house here now?
Currently, through this driveway. This is also a permanent easement that was under my grandpa's name. Currently, my uncle is living here because my grandpa's passed
So the
away.
reason I'm asking is just to make sure that we're not blocking off any access to whoever has this. It still has an access from this standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently our driveway goes up here. When we build, we would have our driveway up here. So it shouldn't affect that strip at all.
We find out who owns that or who's that. I mean, an easement still has to be owned.
But so that's actually just a separate parcel. According to the plats and the county records, it doesn't extend all the way up to 3,500 currently.
Okay.
And that's why she was saying she's not affecting that. They're coming in through the Wardles property. Their adjustment is to the Wardles property.
Okay, so it really doesn't affect that little strip.
Correct.
Or the easements to create a burden to the landowners down below.
As there's no easements shown on their plat, on the plat map as it stands, but we can request a title report if you want.
I just want to make sure that we're not creating a burden to 650 by locking off that upper part, because then that land locks that home.
Yeah, I don't even know that they could access from that because of the steepness of the hill.
Okay. So I think that answers your question, is if it's not going up, we'll need to get a report from the county to see if there's an easement or should be an easement or who owns that land. But it doesn't sound like it affects this lot that's going in at this time, because it won't change that lot at this time. Is that my
Sir,
understanding?
That is correct. That's correct.
I was just going to ask him sir, after seeing the map, does that ease some of the concerns that you
No, it
have?
doesn't.
Okay, and
It
tell us
does
why.
affect the new lot. And I don't mean to be a stick in the mud with my new neighbors. I want them to be able to, but I think that leaving rather landlocked this other orphaned acreage is a mistake. And I want to get that straightened out. So I guess that's an issue between Johnson's and Critchlow's and the Wardle family with Passos.
Right. Yeah. So since that's not part of this discussion on
Yes.
changing this,
Yes.
all we're doing is changing the lot line below, which is separate from that strip. And that would be something that whoever's using it for the easement or
Well-
whoever's.
You have not defined for me how far down that strip you're intending to make this changes.
So the amount of square footage that will be extended is 1,403 square feet. And it's going to dip down over into this, and again, not at all modifying or altering the strip that you've referenced.
So basically what we're looking at, there is already a buffer between you and the request for this property change in line. And you've got a buffer, which is an easement that belongs to the Critchlows. So it really is a separate entity parcel than what we're talking about tonight. Is
In
that
between the
correct?
two, yes.
In between the two.
Are you telling me that easement goes from north to south on that narrow strip?
It doesn't hit the entirety. It doesn't come clear entirely to the road from what I can see on the map.
Oh, yes, I see that there's a little, a hook, horn, if you will, projection.
The two properties being considered don't touch your property currently, but that isn't to say you can't reach out to these other property owners and see if, you know, you'd like some cleanup. I mean, obviously it'd be up to the property owners.
Is it inconvenient? Is it more than inconvenient? Is it improper for me to ask for a survey? A depiction on paper? I don't care if it's on computer.
Sir, we have that. I'm happy to show you the existing plat and the revised plat. It's in the packet, but I can show you.
Okay, I'm ready to sit. If you have a paper for me, I'd be glad. If you have a computer address, I'd be glad to do it that way. I get the feeling from these other two issues that when you make a movement here and make a change, then that's change. So I figure this is my opportunity.
It is. That's why we appreciate you coming and asking. But
No,
for this, you're asking specifically about a different parcel, and that's not in the discussion for tonight. The only thing is we're looking at the two lands between us.
I believe I understand.
So we will suggest that we continue to look at that parcel, and we would suggest reach out to those homeowners or the owners of that parcel and try to make a more specific definition of what you would like.
As
going
well as
forward.
my neighbor.
Yep. Well, I'm sure there's a little group there. So
I'm glad these
All right.
people are moving there.
no, that's great. We want them to join us. All right. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments from the citizens for this parcel change? Okay, we'll make a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
We've got a motion by Chad. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is now closed. Is there any discussion more on this item that we can review or questions for the staff at this time? Hearing no discussion, I'll take a motion that we approve or deny the change of the plot amendment for Angel Heights subdivision adjustment, the lot lines of lot 15 located at 633 West, 3500 North.
Motion to approve as presented by staff.
Okay, we got a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved, and we will move on to the next. The next items are public hearings for legislative consideration and recommendation to the city council. So this group here will make a recommendation to approve or to not deny, and those will go to the city council after that point. So that's on the next items here. They're legislative for us, only recommendations. Our first item, 4A, is preliminary subdivision application for Parkland 2 planned unit development located at 2738 North Rulon White Boulevard. And go ahead and have staff. This isn't one where the applicants can be here tonight. Is the applicant here?
No, they should be here tonight.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have staff give us a review of the application.
Okay. I think I'm trying to remember. If it's the same individual that's involved. I was gonna send him a text. He's gonna be getting on. Yeah, no, I think it's somebody else. Tyson, do you remember if this one, Cameron Cook's involved in this one as well, or? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so before you this evening is a proposal for a preliminary subdivision consideration for Lot 3 of the Rulon White Business Park, Parkland 2 Planned Unit Development, PUD, also a subdivision. And so this is a recommendation to the City Council to consider preliminary. This is within the MP1 zoning, and in checking with the zoning requirements and the preliminary proposal, these do meet the general standards and evaluation of how those go into effect. This is the property right here on the vicinity map. And then also just here's the PUD with the 3 separate buildings. Well, maybe not 3 separate, but interconnected, 3 divided uses. So I don't know if there's any questions before you this evening. It's preliminary, so this will have to go to the City Council for their consideration of preliminary, and then also once the details are vetted out and everything is finalized, it will go back before the City Council for final consideration.
Hey, is the applicant here tonight to represent this? Okay, I'm going to throw it to the commission at this time for either discussion to table because the applicant is not here, or we can go ahead and move forward with the discussion in the public hearing.
I propose we move forward with the public hearing.
Okay, do you want to make a motion?
Make a motion to move forward with the public hearing.
We have an open a public hearing. So we have a second to open a public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're now in a public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to discuss this project on the table here tonight? Or is anyone here to represent or talk about the topic tonight? Okay, seeing no public hearing for this item, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Motion by Commissioner Parr to close. Second,
I'll second.
we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, discussion items on this one. My question is, we will see a plot plan on this one before
So the site plan will come at a later
their
time.
site plan?
Mhm.
So is that before they start?
So this is just for the subdivision to divide the land.
Back to my question is, that's just
Oh.
to subdivide it?
Sorry.
This is Parkland 2.
Yes.
So this is actually an existing lot that's in the Roland White subdivision that they are creating into, they already have a building permit. And they're separating the building into 3 units, I believe, with common area. So the site plan is actually technically already approved with the building permit.
Like, we've already seen this one before, and now they're just doing the subdivision.
Correct, yes.
That's why I just wanted to make
Sorry,
sure.
we have a similar development and I'm getting the two mixed up, which happens.
So I just
quite
want to make sure.
regularly.
So this is the final, because we already did review this one as a site plan. So whatever, we're just basically dividing it into 3s. Any other questions?
No questions.
Okay, anybody would like to make a motion or one way or the other?
I will motion to approve as presented by staff.
We have a motion by
Again.
Commissioner Stokes. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion by the commission at this time? All in favor of approving considering a recommendation for the city council for the property so read, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And for the record, well, we'll talk about it in staff communication afterwards. Okay, let's go ahead and we will move on to public hearing item rezone of 4B, rezone of 27 acres of land from agricultural A5 to residential RE20 located at 500 West, 4300 North. We'll go ahead and open it up to staff for discussion and introduction of the project.
No, thank you, Chair. So before you this evening is a proposed rezone. And as the chair mentioned, at 500 West, 4300 North, from agriculture A5 property to residential RE20 zoning. And the petitioner is requesting to rezone 27 acres of the property to accommodate a housing development. In accordance with the city code and in accordance with state code as well, the Planning Commission and City Council considers the public welfare and then also whether an application should be approved or disapproved based on the merits of compatibility with the proposed project in the general plan, surrounding land uses, and the impacts on the surrounding area. So the city's general plan was most recently adopted in 2017. And the general plan is developed with public input and involvement, and it's intended to outline and reflect the city's desires for future land use and development. And although the general plan is not legally binding, it is an important guiding document for future development. So when looking at this proposed project specifically, the general plan is a bit inconclusive in addressing these parcels because there's 2 different ways that the general plan references these. And so the first being our mapping. And so in the mapping and in the plans for the future land use map, it actually includes this property as a higher density in retaining the A5 zoning. And then there's also some written references that reference a higher capacity of residential dwellings and density. And one of the things to note with the mapping, we do use that for our city planning. And so it's not to say that both parts of the general plan aren't applicable, but the mapping is used for our capital facilities planning and some of those other things. And so that's something that's an important tool as we look at that. So there's other items that are addressed in the general plan as well. And again, the adequate public facilities planning, and that's to ensure we have adequate water resources available through this planning and to look at how growth will impact that. Again, the mapping was the main tool used for that. But the application for this is addressed in the city's subdivision process. And so that's the process that would come after this if a change is to occur, or if not, if they decided to develop the land under the current zoning. Sensitive lands, the same thing. So those promote and preserve the sensitive lands. We've got an ordinance to do that, and this area is applicable to the sensitive lands that addresses vegetation, slope, grading plans, wildlife, and this property is also subject to that. But the sensitive lands would be applicable again in that subdivision process. So regardless of the zoning, it's applicable in the subdivision process. Residential land uses, and so that's again where that other reference comes into play and allows for the prospect of higher density in the area. And the description's a little bit broad, but does define the portion broadly of land that's before you for consideration. Just historically, this proposal has come forward for a similar rezone from A5 to RE20 and was considered by the Planning Commission and City Council in 2019 and 2020. And ultimately, the public submitted a petition recommending denial of the proposal, and the City Council voted to deny the proposal, and the existing A5 zoning remained intact. So just some historical reference there. With regards to zoning background, just looking and evaluating the different zones, and this is in your packets. I'm sure you've taken some time to review this, but there are some differences just in the placement of a residential dwelling within the different zones, and then also with the amount of surface area, impervious surface that would be allowable. And this is a reference to the sensitive lands code, but there would be a limitation of 5,000 square feet or 10% in the RE20, and then in the other, looking at 10% as a maximum. So given that the general plan can support either proceeding with the rezone or denying the rezone, that's something before you for consideration this evening. We do have our City Public Works Director and engineer here to help answer any questions that you may have. I know that there were some questions from the public, and if you wouldn't mind, Chair, if I address some of those. I saw on social media some concerns that this was brought forward again to the city for consideration. Why was the city entertaining this again? And I have to say, with the way our code is set up, there are no limitations to how many times if someone comes and brings a petition and pays the fee, that is reviewed at the current time. And so that's something, a constitutional right, that someone can come and petition their government, and we accept those petitions for review. So that kind of helps to address that question. And I think part of it as well, with the comments that we have received, we've been thoughtful in distributing those to our planning commission and also to our city council, because ultimately they're the final deciding body. I know I received some questions this week, why if it comes to the planning commission, would it go to the city council as well? And the agenda addresses this a little bit, but the planning commission is the recommending body to the city council. And then the city council, as your elected officials, make that final determination. So I don't know if that's helpful context, but hopefully so. And with that, I just would recommend, if a motion is made, that you apply the criteria that's outlined in the code for your review. And then also would recommend a recommendation that we amend the general plan to clean this up so that in the future, there's not any issues with which direction this is headed.
Hey, are there any specific questions for the staff at this time? Okay, is the petitioner here tonight? We're going to go ahead and give the petitioner some time. They'd like to make a presentation for the commission. This time, we'll turn the time over to him.
Thank you. My name is Jaden Olson. I live in Kaysville at 66 South 500 East. I am grateful to be here with so many concerned citizens of the community. We love Pleasant View. My wife graduated from Weber High, and we'd love to be able to live here one day. Just some background on myself. I'm owner of Canyon Ledge LLC. I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Utah State University, as well as a master's degree in structural engineering. And I'm a professionally licensed engineer in the state of Utah. I have 6 years of experience in real estate and development, and I'm excited to present this proposal to the committee tonight, and I appreciate your time. Everybody knows, I'm sure, where the location of this property is. I wanted to highlight here this blue line is currently where the main water line comes down through the property for Pleasant View City. I'd also like to point out that that currently does not sit on a publicly recorded easement on the property. That water line was installed in 1970. And if we can go to the next page, I wanted to give a little bit of background for this project. And one reason why this will continue to be an issue for the city is because of some promises that were made by the city, one in 1970 and another one in 2005, saying that in exchange for specific easements and the use of the water line, the city would one day approve half-acre lots in this location. And I think it's important for the community to recognize that. So this letter up here in 2005 indicates that at some point, it's a turnaround easement that was granted for the Mount Majestic subdivision to the east. And in exchange for the easement for the turnaround on 4400, these lots would at some point in the future be rezoned and developed to half-acre lots or less. And this was signed and recorded on title in 2005. And then back again with the public or easement, utility easement for the water line. This was in 1970 when the water line was put in. The water line was placed down the center of the property, which is unique. Typically, a utility easement will be granted down the edge of a property. This specifically addresses the reason that it was placed down the center of this road or this property was to allow for a road and development in the future. So these two things are very interesting, and I think that it's important that we all reach a conclusion that is going to both grant the public easement and keep the water line in place and allow the property to be developed at some point in the future with whatever is deemed appropriate.
And Chair, if you don't mind if I just jump in really quickly, and I appreciate Jaden's comments on this, but I would say that in order to accomplish a rezone, there's specific criteria in our city code and state code, and we can't make promises for a rezone or a certain density. So just to clarify that point.
Well, that's good. I appreciate that, Amy. Thank you. I do think that it's important that the Christofferson family and their heirs are honored with the consideration that was provided in exchange for those easements in whatever form is deemed necessary or appropriate. We're offering generous solutions to help resolve these conflicts. I think that you'll see with the proposed plat that we are making secessions. We are different from the proposal that was presented in 2019. And if we can go to the next slide, that would be great, Amy. I know a lot of the concerns revolved around the study that was performed in 2016 regarding the, let's see, it was the, I can't read, I'm blind up here. This 2016 Pleasant View City Foothill Area Land Planning Study. I think that it's important that the community recognizes that that study was designed to guide development, not to constrain or restrict it, and that the subject property does not appear to conflict with any identified natural or man-made constraints that have not been addressed by further study. And so these concerns and worries that were brought forward in 2019 regarding that specific study, I think it's important that we look at the studies that have been done on a site-specific basis regarding the soil, infiltration, the wetland studies, and everything that we've done to date on that. So to back up a little bit, we have done site-specific studies on these two parcels. There are 10 soil test pits throughout the property that we did soil testing on to determine their capacity to support structures. There was also an infiltration test done to determine how quickly the water will seep through this regarding drainage. and the detention ponds that would be required for this type of subdivision. There is no evidence of liquefaction potential, no geologic hazards. Regarding the soil, there's no reason that this should not be able to accommodate this subdivision. In addition to this site-specific evaluations, we had an aquatic resource delineation, which was performed by Wetland Resources. They performed studies, and you can see that in the picture behind the screen there. But they performed test pit studies to determine which of these areas are wetlands within these two parcels. And I know that site-sensitive areas were identified in this property, but I think that it's important that we recognize that the majority of that sits to the left of this parcel, or the west side. This little green dot represents the only wetland that was identified on the property, and it constitutes 5/100ths of an acre. And we are taking that into consideration with the proposed plat. If you look through this picture, this is identifying the 10 test pits where the soil study was completed. Excuse me. Let's go to the next page. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
Zoom out, zoom in. I don't know what's best here.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
This is just what people see online, so we've got to have the people as well.
So this is the proposed plat. We want to be sensitive to the needs of the community, and we're trying to create a plat that works for everybody. In an effort to accomplish this, again, we are going to address this wetland location, which constitutes 5/100ths of an acre, by having an open space corridor that will allow both wildlife and land to be untouched. This will be dedicated to the city, and it will be a wildlife easement into the nature park. In addition to this, we're willing to donate the whole east side of the road to the nature park to allow for both easier access and better visibility and better maintenance to the nature park. This will increase the open space on the property and the nature park itself. It's an increase to the nature park of approximately 10% of land, but I think the frontage and exposure on this side would be really nice for the community. Also, in addition to this, we wanted to highlight the easement that we would propose running north to south on the east side of this development. We would propose putting a 25-foot wildlife corridor easement. That would essentially, what that means is that nobody can build within that easement, preventing wildlife from accessing the Wadman Nature Park, or vice versa, getting up on the mountain. So it's important that we take this into consideration while we're developing this. Another aspect that I'd like to highlight on this map is the relocation of the city's main water line. This water line is now over 50 years old, and it's not on a easement recorded on this property. So we would like to replace and relocate the water line. And it's essentially connecting at the same spot on the south end of the property, and we would be tying it in on the north end of the property as well. It's just relocating to follow this road, and we'd record it on public easement. But I think that the replacement of that water line is something not to be misunderstood. I think it's also important that we recognize the difference between the 2019 proposal and this proposal. We're proposing putting 19 lots along this property. And I know that it's going to come up because this is a 5-acre lot up here, parcel 19. The owner who currently owns this anticipates keeping this 5 acres for the foreseeable future, but the continuous zoning is something that would be desired. We have 18 homes that we're going to put up here. They're all on half-acre lots, all with 100 feet of frontage to the road. And I think that having the access right across from the park and open space up here is going to be a really nice feature. And we have some copies of this zoning map. If you guys would like one, please raise your hand and my help will get it to you. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. This is kind of just a quick rendering of what we anticipate the open space to look like, the dedication to the park, the open space easement with the wetlands right here. We can go to the next slide, Amy. And this is another rendering kind of showing the location of the road, and it gives you a better idea of how big this donation really is, providing this is all part of the Wadman Nature Park. Thank you. Can we slide to the left so I can see my notes there? So the benefits of the park expansion, the donation to the park combined with the dedicated open space in the plat creates more than a 30% increase to the open land that makes up the nature park today. 44% reduction of the total proposed lots versus the 19 plat map. It's 19 instead of 34 lots. We're also planning to donate $25,000 of improvements to the nature park to improve the benches that are broken and the paths that are broken in that nature park. And I think that will be a really nice value to the community as well. I think there's a couple more slides there, Amy, if we can. Thank you. In addition to all the considerations that we've talked about, I think it's important that we all understand the nature of the development. It's our anticipation that mature trees will live out their natural life. We don't anticipate cutting back natural vegetation that currently exists. The multiple corridors that we're providing for wildlife access from both the north and the south and the east and the west is critical to keeping Wadman Nature Park what it is. And then the secondary access to Mount Majestic, Pole Patch, and everything north of 4575 for fire safety. I know that this is in the general road map for the city, but I think it's important that we highlight that this is a safety issue. There's only one access for everybody north of 4570 to get off the mountain in case of a fire. And so it's important that we highlight that. In addition to that, there are other benefits to having more housing in Pleasant View. We're consistent with the continuous land use in Alder Creek and Mount Majestic, consistent with the city pipeline and future road plans. Yeah, let's go to the next one. I think that's about it. But bottom line, we're very happy to be working in Pleasant View, and we're excited to see what this proposal can do. We think that this is the best solution for the issues that this parcel presents for the city. And it's important that we recognize that I don't think this issue will go away based on what has been promised by the city in the past. And I think it will continue to be an issue until we can come with the resolution for the easements, the water line issues, and all the access for the fire roads and everything else. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olson.
Before you run away real quick,
Yes.
I was going to ask, does the commissioners have any questions for the petitioner at this time? Okay, thank you. We might come back to you, but we'll see. Yes.
And just appreciate Mr. Olson's presentation. A couple of points of clarity on the proposal before you, and I should have hit on this before in my overview. The main thing we're looking at this evening, and I think all of the points that were brought up are important, is the density. And that's what the rezone ultimately does. The water issues, the easement issues, all of those will be addressed in the subdivision process, whether this lot is developed under A5 or RE20. Before you this evening is really a consideration of density and appropriateness of increasing that density or not. And so just to kind of keep us on track and focus on the issues at hand, those other items are very important, but would come at a later stage in the subdivision process, regardless of what the zoning of the property is, frankly.
Thank you, Amy. That's, you beat me to a few of my notes here.
Sorry.
No, this is great. Just so the
Felt bad I
mechanics of the people here, and I always have to remind myself and the commission, as Amy stated, this is purely for the zoning. We're not, we aren't diving into all the different things that if they actually do have a subdivision that comes before us, it would come back before us as a group and we'd look at the specifics of the subdivision. So right now we're just looking at, do we rezone or do we recommend a rezone or not at this time? So we're not going to dive into necessarily the wildlife, the water, all the other things that go into that.
And they're definitely applicable.
They're applicable and they will be, whether it's A5 or whether it's A2 or RE20, whichever zonings are, anything that comes before this group, we have to look at all of those considerations when they come before us at that time. But we're going to kind of keep it right to the zoning. And we use the guidance and the guidelines of our general plan and our documents at this time. Okay, what I would like to do is I'd like to first thank everybody on Zoom, on YouTube, and in the audience that have sent in any types of written correspondence with the City Council, with the Planning Commission. All of those were sent out to each of us up here, and we've had the chance to read through those, some of them several times, to make sure that we're understanding the concerns from the citizens. So we take that very seriously. There again, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and take a motion at this time that we open up to a public hearing. What I'd like to ask, one, the documents are on record, so these will be a public document that will be attached to our packet, and they will also be forwarded to the City Council. So just be aware that all of your discussion items will go to the city council.
And the comments provided tonight will also be forwarded to the city council as well, with the minutes for review.
So I'm going to open it up and we're going to ask that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes if we can, because we have a lot that may want to. Hopefully we've got a general spokesperson from the group and they can just sum it all up at once. But if we get to a point, let's please try to keep it to where it's not redundant. It's the same things just being repeated, just to keep a time limit for all of those that have been able to join us for tonight. So do we have a motion now at this time to open up a public hearing?
I'll make a motion that we open to public hearing.
Okay, I got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll open up now into public hearing. I'd like to request that we keep it to a 3 minute, and please, when you come to the front, state your name and address.
Dale Roberts, 1667 West Pleasant View Drive. I appreciate the gentleman's concern wanting to live in Pleasant View. My understanding is the current zoning does allow for homes to be built, and so why not keep the current zoning and build his home under the current constraints? Also, there's been many studies and concerns about replenishing water sources through that land. And I'm no expert, so we're going to rely on the Planning Commission to do their research and follow those recommendations. There's certainly a lot of concern about renewing the wells and the water up there, and the concern to leave that land open to accept the water. Just another recommendation to the owners of this land that want to live in Pleasant View. I know that Budge Farms subdivision has 18 homes that are finished and ready to go. So you're welcome to make an offer through Nelson Homes to purchase one of those. I'm sure they would love to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale.
My name's Eric Cragen. I live at 3561 North 950 West. I'm with the gentleman before us, leave the zoning as it is. If any building is going to be held, the land water is absolutely a concern. And I know that we're trying to sidebar that. I lost a natural stream in my backyard due to a new development in Pleasant View, a stream that's been there for over 50 years. So I'm extremely concerned that we would kind of change this and pack that on the natural hill. So we need to leave it as it is or mitigate the development there to some larger parcels so we can keep that well water as it is.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Jeff Clark, 4780 North Patch Drive. The gentleman was very clever in his presentation, which is interesting, and it would really pay to be wildlife in Pleasant View under his development. I think that the commission needs to really consider that everybody who moved up in that area did so because they wanted 5 acres. And we're kind of tired of coming and fighting this fight over and over again. We'd like the council to finally put this to rest. Watershed is a big, big issue up there. When we built our home, that was such a big thing. We were even required at quite a large expense to put our own retention basin on our property. There's retention basins above us. And that seems to be non-thematic right now. It seems to be, how can I squeeze more homes in a place where I can sell more homes? I think that the other thing that's really frustrating is that whole bench used to have a lot of water bubbling up out of the ground. And that certainly changed when the city went and drilled a very deep well up in the top, and all of our bubble up springs and little waterfalls, et cetera, have gone away. And so we're seeing a lot of urban impact of what we originally purchased and we're trying to maintain. And just because there's a little sliver of property available that we could squeeze a bunch of lots into, and somebody from out of town can come and develop and make some money. We'd like you to really consider the residents of Pleasant View, what we bought or tried to buy and maintain above a certain place where below there's zoning that fits the kind of development that they want to do, and above maintain a kind of zoning that we think we all signed up for and probably paid a lot of extra money for in the form of lot costs as well as taxes, et cetera. So we'd like you to consider us a little more than the wildlife in this, if you will. Thank you.
Larry Hansen. I live at 4296 North 500 West. I'm the guy with the big haunted house crap on his house. So just to give you reference. So I live right across the street from this. I just did get in the mail not too long ago a wonderful thing from our mayor thanking us for conserving water this year. In April of this year, 21st, our Governor Cox issued a state of emergency due to the drought. And I know we're beating a dead horse to a degree. I've lived there for about 6 years now, and I've watched the water disappear. We're in a drought. Their recommendation was from 2019, how things have changed, and then they've done their perk tests and all these other things. But they're in the middle of a drought, a historic drought. We're trying to save water and not give it away. I did just a little teeny bit of math and realizing that out of there, if you only have 2,000 square feet of grass on a 21,000 square foot half acre lot, that if, when it's totally completed, there would be a total of over 9,727,000 gallons of water used just for watering. I wonder where, as a city, we're going to get that water from. So I'm sorry to beat a dead horse, but in reality, this seems to be one of the major things. And again, it's already zoned at 1 home per 5 acres. Great. Let's leave it that so the ground, the water, and the fauna and the wildlife have a place still to live here in Pleasant View as we do as well. Thank you very much.
My name's John Sutton. I live at 4353 North, 350 West, immediately north of the fire station. I'd like to revisit an issue that was brought up prior to the fire station going in, which is outside lighting. The Wadman Nature Park is still in an area that's relatively dark. There are no street lights nearby. The residences around are generally fairly dark, and the fire station guys should get a gold medal for the efforts they've done to turn their lights out at night when they're not that busy. It's an opportunity for a youngster or somebody to go and see a dark sky without going up to Monte Cristo or to Ogden Valley, which I agree is a lot darker, but this is far more convenient. We're raising a generation of children, many of whom have never seen a dark sky. And it's like living all of your life in a house with dirty windows and you've never looked outside and seen where you live. And approval of this proposal will substantially increase that light pollution in the area and, in my opinion, degrade the character of the park and where it is right now. I assume Pleasant View will require dark sky approved street lighting that are fully shielded. However, the LED technology that's sweeping us all has resulted in the outside residential lighting run amok. And everybody's putting in these security lights, low energy security lights that are really exceptionally bright. And many people, despite the motion sensor cutoff, leave them on all night. And so my point is that 18 homes and any future development is going to seriously degrade the lighting in that area. And it's going to change the character of the whole area, in my opinion. And I'd like to see the zoning remain unchanged. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Just as a quick note, we'd like to thank Mr. Sutton because I think you came in when the fire department was looking at building out there and actually brought that to our attendance. This is a dark sky. And I think we were able to implement some of the recommendations.
Yeah, the architect and Dave, Chief Wade worked together and I can only speak, I look on the rear of the fire station and I cannot speak to the front. But there is a big light, but it's only on its motion sensor when they come back from a call, and it's turned off it automatically got off after about 10 or 15 minutes.
But I want to thank you because it's the public comment like yours tonight and others, because based on your comments back when that fire station was built, to keep the dark skies, we actually helped require that when they built that fire station.
Well, now that's appreciated, and I think we're coming up in June to the 7th year since the open house, and those guys just need a thank you because
public comments really work. So
they
thank
do
you
try
for coming.
to turn off the lights.
So appreciate that.
Thank you.
My name is Chad Winward. I live at 292 West, 4350 North, right across the street from John, who just spoke. I want to cover something that I don't believe has really been factored in enough in the discussions, and it's the current state of the economy and its potential impacts on this proposed development. I could use up all my 3 minutes and far more covering all the turmoil that's going on in national and global economies and still not scratch the surface. We've seen a market slowdown in the housing market in recent weeks, and it was not from a pandemic, but just simply from a sharp rise in interest rates coupled with high inflation. There are actually areas in the country already where potentially new homeowners are breaking contracts and paying fines and walking away because they cannot afford the new payment. Between January and now, the interest rate on a typical 30-year mortgage has more than doubled. So on maybe a typical $400,000 mortgage, that results in an extra $1,000 a month just in interest on top of the original payment versus like a 3 to 3.5% interest rate that we had early in the year. So the Federal Reserve, who has all the speakers have commented in the last couple of weeks, they've indicated that they have no intention of letting up on the interest rate increases at this time. They're already proposing another 0.75% interest rate hike in November, and they said it could well extend into next year. So what does any of this have to do with this proposed development? Simply put, buyers who purchase and build on 5-acre lots tend to be better off financially. They have more reserves. They have more stable incomes. They have smaller mortgages relative to their income and net worth. They are generally less negatively impacted by the larger economic cycles. They are more likely to buy their property, finish their construction, and perhaps more importantly, maintain their property in the proper way that it should be, regardless of downturns in the economy. If this land is divided into much smaller lots, it attracts lower income buyers who are quite the opposite and obviously at much higher risk of being negatively impacted if we fall into recession, which, by the way, the stock and the bond market have been telling us since last December that we are headed into recession. Every development is an investment, and all investments have to be assessed not only on their potential returns, but also on their risk profiles. And right now, the potential risks to the housing market and to the broader economy are higher than they have been in well over a decade. And I won't even take the time to talk about things like pandemics and global energy shortages and interest rates and inflation and oil prices and such. What I would like to point out is that right now, a very suitable development plan already exists in the city for this land. And it has so for decades. And, as the Planning Commission, you need to have a very compelling reason that has to be provided to alter that and change the zoning. So why would we alter that right now and accommodate a plan that clearly has far greater risks associated with it? I've heard many good reasons why it could work, but I have not heard any that have convinced me why it should. So there's a time and a place to take risks in life for sure, but this is not the time right now. And this parcel of land is certainly not the place. I urge the Planning Commission and the City Council to work together to deny this request for a change in the zoning. Let's be satisfied with what already is and not take on the additional risks that could come from making this change. And that will maintain the integrity of this land that's beautiful and sensitive, as we've mentioned. It keeps the development in line with the will of the people who are most impacted by it. It avoids the potential risks and pitfalls that could come due to global economic disruptions. And it creates a development that's in harmony with the location of this property, which is the front porch of Pole Patch and the next door neighbor, the nature park. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, I can't miss an opportunity like this. So I'm Carson Jones, live at 1106 West, 4050 North in Deer Crest. So I've just been taking a couple notes as I'm listening to the comments here. And one thing that I've been thinking a lot about is this is not a subdivision approval. This is a rezone discussion. And I just, contrary to the thought process that a lot of people in this room are having tonight, I think that this piece of ground really needs to be rezoned. I think a lot more than this piece of ground needs to be rezoned. The problem with 5-acre lots, and I know this because I do it every day for a living, is just the sheer cost of 5-acre lots. So the development and the infrastructure that has to go in, it's sure, you're only going to have very affluent people that ever move into Pleasant View again. If you ever want to have a child move into Pleasant View, it'll never happen because there is no place for somebody on the up and coming to come in and buy a lot that's not going to be $1 million. So that is a big problem, especially as I'm watching every single day the cost of every single half-acre lot that I put in go up, skyrocket by 2 over the last 10 years. The cost of improving a half-acre lot has doubled. These are big problems with saying, hey, let's keep with 5-acre lots. Second problem is the water issue has been talked about a lot here. Now, when we're talking about irrigation water, it doesn't matter if it's 5-acre lots. It doesn't matter if it's 20-acre lots. It doesn't matter if it's a 5,000 square foot lot. The amount of water needed for irrigation is the same. So the only thing that's more of a waste on water than building lots is agriculture. So I can't break it down to gallons as it's been broken down in this conversation, but I know what it takes to water 1 acre of alfalfa or hay is 3 times the amount what it takes to water a lawn. So there's that issue. It's more of a conservation to put lots in there rather than agriculture as it sits now. There's a lot to say about water recharge and issues on this piece of ground here, and honestly, on the whole bench above 4,300. I've done a lot of study and research, and Dana can well, the staff knows that we've been in this a lot, and the water recharge is not down this low. We're not sucking from the drinking water aquifers at this level. So I think there's a whole lot more to the picture than looking at this and saying, geez, that's open space, because it's not open space, it's private property. And I think that we should all have a rezone. I think it's a fantastic idea. And I think just that parcel right there, the city right now takes $6 a year on taxes on that parcel right there. So the amount of taxes brought in from a rezone on this one little 27 acres, not the rest of the hillside, but this one little 27 acres would exponentially, if you count 18 lots, you're basically, well, it's in the hundreds times more. It's way more than $6 a year. So I think I just don't see a downside to what the request is. Thank you.
And Chair, just one quick thing to note. I don't know if anybody's noticing, but I do have a little sign. If we hit the 3 minutes, I do have a 1 minute left, and then I know it's hard. It's very passionate, so don't feel bad if you didn't pay attention. But
We've had a lot of good comments tonight, and there's been a lot of different topics covered tonight. Are there any other people in the audience who would like to address the city with different topics?
I would like to respond, not counting my 3 minutes.
Can I get you to state your name, please, and
Yes,
address?
my name is Charlotte Christopher. I live at 4244 North 500 West. Carson, you said that if we didn't develop this, we'd never have children or grandchildren be able to move into this area. Several years ago, I voted to let these lots down here be made for 1/3 acre lots so that our children and grandchildren could build starter homes.
And I'm going to ask that you just address us up here first.
Okay,
rather than-
okay.
You can make comments about that, but rather than address other people, let's
I
go
was
ahead and
talking
just
to
focus
Carson.
on it.
That's okay.
He's heard
But
it before. So
I just want to ask, do you see any starter homes on any of these streets down at the bottom of 500 West? And I voted for that. I voted for the 1/3 acre lots. Sorry about that. Now, okay, can I start my 3 minutes? Okay, this is what I prepared. My family and I moved here in the spring of 1977 from Missouri, local rural farm country. So when we moved here, we looked for rural open land. And when we found this home, we were told that that land up above 4,300 had been zoned as 5 acre lots, and it would always remain that way. Now, I know you can't promise anything, but that's what we were told. Now, I've read parts of the land use plan of 2016 and the general plan of 2017 that relate to this property and request for rezoning. But tonight, I am going to request you as members of the Pleasant View Planning Commission to uphold the intent of the general plan, which was to maintain this property as it is presently zoned. It can be developed as it is zoned. I request that you focus on the vision that the citizens of this community have repeatedly provided to you in public hearings, letters, and other ways. I believe that the vision of the people of the citizens have expressed in the past and would express again tonight if we had enough time would be to, 1, maintain the safety and well-being of our city, maintain our benches as they currently are, prevent traffic safety and noise issues that this development would bring in relation to our Lowman View Elementary School and our Weaver High School. And the water has already been mentioned a number of times, so I'm not going to talk about that. But we all do know that we have been in a drought. And yes, secondary water is different than culinary water, but we've also been asked to conserve on our culinary water as well as our secondary water. So that tonight, my request to you as a citizen of this city would be that you, as the Planning Commission, would maintain the current zoning of A5 5 acre lots for this property. Thank you.
thank you.
Kendall Matson. I live at 4600 North Pole Patch, up where the spooky spot starts next week. So if any of you have your little kids, I can't even come close to what she said. So I'm just going to say ditto and sit down because excellent. We don't want to change. Leave it as it is. Thanks.
My name is Della Morgan. I live at 4325 South, 125 West. My backyard is right on the Skyline 500. And across from the Skyline 500 is the park. And I want everyone to know I don't mind picking up deer deer droppings along with my dog. And if the gentleman really wants his family to live here in Pleasant View, there's many homes for sale, gorgeous homes right now. And also I moved into Pleasant View, and it was pleasant, let me tell you. I'm the third owner of the home that I'm living in. When I drive up 500 West, there was apple orchards, there was cherry orchards, there was alfalfa fields, there was cornfields. It was beautiful, and it definitely was Pleasantville. And then the farmers died, the kids settled around, and then the houses built up. Well, everybody needs a place to go, but overpopulation isn't the way to go. And according to the water, I've never seen them water the alfalfa fields up there above me. They're dry farming, I think, so there's no water involved. But I love this place, and I don't want it to go to the dogs. Thanks.
Thank you.
Frank Stone, 243 North, 200 West, Pleasant View. I think everybody knows it's all about money. The landowner makes more money. The construction guy makes more money. The city council makes more money. Of course, the city just spends it, so they don't need to make more money. But I listened to his proposal there, and it looked real good for a modern city. We're not a modern city. We're still a rural area. And it needs to stay that way. If you approve this, then what about all of the other 5-acre lots? Are you going to approve them? You got to draw the line.
John Morris, 4424 North, 400 West. It's been a few decades ago, but I spent some time in your chairs on a planning commission in a city that was a rural city that was transitioning from rural parts to rural to higher density, to R10 in that case, even higher density than what we're looking at here. Something that we looked at, and this is more for consideration and trying to help maybe help all people involved, is we tried to look at buffer zones. We looked at if something was A5 in one area, and well, in this case, there's an A5 on the west, there's R20 on the east. Is there a way, and I haven't looked at this in detail to know if that would even work, but is there a way to have, you match A5, you have a neighbor of an A5, you have that side be A5, and then the other side you could open up to a little higher density that matches the neighbors. So something to consider. And it seems like when we first moved to Pleasant View, there was some water. There's always been water considerations in Pleasant View. Something that was told to me by Mayor Clifford back when he was serving, is that one thing they always looked at is the developer bringing in enough water rights to meet the need. He didn't want to have people look at water stashed or the Pleasant View City reserves. It was does the developer bring in the water rights to meet the needs of the development? I don't know if that still applies, but something to consider. Thank you.
Okay, we've had a lot of great comments tonight. Okay, go ahead. I was just saying, let's keep it there. We've covered a lot of broad topics, but I'm still open to listen if there's other items.
My name's Heather Chug, and I was hoping somebody else would say this because I hate getting up in front of people, but my address is 4367 North, 175 West. I was hoping somebody else would mention the overcrowding of schools, because I think that's one of the big things that impacts families that live here, that we still want our kids to have, a good education. And the thing is, I went to Weber High School and I graduated in 1995, and they had to build Fremont because we were so overcrowded, and they had to split our senior class, and it was this huge overcrowding problem. Well, Weber High School right now has more students in it than when I did, and then they had to build Weber High School. And I know they're building a new high school out west, but that's only going to pull and help the Fremont people. We're kind of getting overcrowded here. So I think, like I said, I was hoping that somebody else would mention this because I see it online a lot. I know it's a concern in the schools, and I don't think the schools, I don't even work in education. I'm a nurse, but this is kind of a unique perspective too. My husband's military, so we have moved around a lot. We've been in different communities, but we're we're from here. So my husband got stationed back at Hill, and I was able to see the growth there, and it's just it definitely gives the feel of that we're overcrowded in a lot of different areas. I'm not just talking fields, but the schools too. So I think the rezoning where we're trying to pack more in, but we don't have schools that can accommodate that. I think that's a big problem. I mean, I'm talking high school because I know they keep building elementary schools, but high school wise, they can only pull so much from the Weber boundaries to head to Fremont and that other school. Otherwise, I mean, there's 5 portals at Weber right now, and they need more. And just ask any kid that's walked through the halls during class change at Weber High School. It is jam-packed. So something to consider that I was hoping somebody else would say, because I read it online a lot, but okay, thanks.
Thank you. Are there any comments at this time that are different than what we've been hearing at this time?
I cry a lot, so I hate to get up. But I think the whole.
Should have state your name and address,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. I'm Ann Gavin. I live at 4057 North, 500 West. And I think too many people today think that if they own something, they can do anything they want with it without any consideration for other people. And I think it's the neighbors, the other people who already live here should have some say in what happens to this property. It's all about greed. How much more money can I make from this piece of land without any consideration for other people?
Thank you. I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna try to keep to my own rules tonight. Normally, I was like, it's not this big a crowd. Is there anybody else that needs to address the audience that on a topic that has not been covered at this time? Okay, not hearing so, I'd take a motion that we close the public hearing at this time.
I motion that we close the public hearing.
We have a motion to close by Chad. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Farrar. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll move now to our discussion time and questions. First, I'd like to say we do have staff on hand. We have our parks, or our waterworks engineer.
Public Works Director.
Public
and
Works.
Engineer.
I'm going to mess up the title, so I apologize, Tyson.
I like
I have
waterworks.
our
though.
engineer. I'm sitting there looking at our engineer right next door. But we have a lot of staff that's available to answer our questions. I do want to remind everybody that we're looking at the zoning. We've had some great comments, and a lot of these different items will come up later if the subdivision in any zoning moves forward. So just as a reminder on that. Thoughts, comments?
I just have a quick, so we're just making a recommendation. It's the city council that will actually be the final word, correct?
Correct. We can recommend to, we can always table it and ask for more questions, but I think we've got a lot of information here now. We can approve a recommendation to the city council that they take our approval for recommendation for approval or recommendation for denial.
I'll start. I have a few questions, but before I start, I'd like to just make note that for everybody who did write to the Planning Commission, City Council, all of your letters, both for and against, I have them. I know my fellow commissioners have looked at those, and we appreciate you sharing with us how you feel about that, both for those here and those who aren't here. So thank you. I've got some questions for Tyson. Tyson, I know that Tyson has worked for the city for many years. Tyson, how many years have you worked for Pleasant View?
Somewhere around 15.
Around 15. And you probably, being in public works, you have to know that property as well, or better than any of us here.
Been on it a few times for different reasons over the years.
When you saw that sensitive land study and you read that, and we're looking, how many years after? 6 years here since we had that study. What are your concerns?
A lot of that, when you get into the sensitive land study, is again, you're going to get more into the subdivision. It requires significantly more data. The sensitive land study's more of a tool to guide you in the direction of things to look at, concerns to look out for. And obviously there are going to be significant concerns in this area, along with anywhere else up on the bend, that factor into zoning.
Do the rest of you have any questions?
I guess I have something to maybe clarify my own understanding. I was under the impression that a lot of this land was to remain open so that water could absorb into the ground. Is that correct?
And so to the groundwater, some of it isn't necessarily into your drinking water. That LID movement, whether you're A5 or RE20, are going to be applicable as
And
far
can you,
as
just kind of define LID? Sorry.
low impact
Thank you.
development. So either zoning, you're gonna deal with that. You're gonna evaluate it. We're gonna try to get that water back in the ground with different tools. The retention ponds versus detention, where you're basically just capturing it all, sending it down the hill, and it ends up wherever it goes. But so that's not necessarily going to the drinking water, which was mentioned. There's shallow wells that are all down the hillside. And yes, a lot of those are drying up. I can't speak for fact that water from this specific area is going to get to any one of those numerous shallower water rights or shallow wells and the springs below that were utilized. But they're definitely being impacted, whether it's here or across the bench where they're collecting their water. It's obviously a concern.
And Tyson, if you don't mind, if I just tag on, one of the challenges, and I think obviously those are critical factors, all that were brought up that we need to address. But with the way the rezone process works, they are required to provide a conceptual plan, which they did. And we look at that, but there's no real finite details to evaluate some of these things. And so it's a little bit difficult to navigate some of those processes at this level, because until we have a refined subdivision plan, we really can't speak, Tyson can speak generally, and I think that he's got some great information, Dana as well, but we can't speak to the specifics of that. So we don't want to ignore water by any means. We just don't have a specific plan to address. And our process is intentionally designed that way, because obviously we don't want to make somebody engineer something fully if the rezone does or doesn't happen type of thing. So still unknown.
I have a question for staff. And this probably has more of a historic question to it. If you look on Google Maps, there's a very clear demarcation across even into North Ogden, minus maybe that one development. So something was in place in Pleasant View prior to the plan that kept the areas north of, 4,300 at bigger parcels. And I guess I'm trying to understand what that was, what the city was following, and why there is such a clear kind of demarcation above that line.
I'm going to pull up our
And I was looking at Google Maps. I think it's a clear picture on
our
Google
map
Maps.
from our general plan. I think that helps provide some context there. And so if you look at this, and it's not It's not great quality, but that upper portion, that is designated as future land use for rural and rural residential. So
And so I guess my question is was the city following some previous plan to keep that area in a certain?
I would say the general plan. That's what's been applied.
Just as a little bit of a history, I think the general plan's been created over time. And that's one thing that the city's required to update every 5 to 10 years. Is that right? And that's a legislative requirement. And so they've taken that into effect, what's been built, and the citizens come in and give their communication. And that's why anytime we do a general plan update, I strongly encourage people say, how do we have a voice in it to make sure that it stays a certain way? Please come out to those public hearings, because we'll meet with the public and talk about how to make general plan recommendations to the city council. They will have public hearings, and we really welcome this type of support, because that's what changes the general plan. We will look at the general plan, look at the future land use map, look at any sensitivity studies or anything that's been provided to the city. And that's what guides this from the input from the citizens to create that general plan. And then that's what our commission is supposed to do, is look at that and use it to help us make determinations moving forward, is based on that general plan.
So it's fair to say that the city has been operating with some format of a plan that has kept this land in this specific zoning for how many years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to get to a microphone, that would be helpful. No, either way, you're welcome. No, we have some Zoom participants, and no, you're fine.
If you look at the past city council minutes and zoning, 1966 is when the city proactively rezoned the hillside above 4300 to A5 because of some impacts of the Majestic Heights subdivision that was, happening below. And so they started to gather maps from Utah State. So 1966 is when they proactively rezoned, just for context.
Thank you. Sarah Uri, and she's our liaison from the council. So that's why we went ahead and let her come. So we appreciate that information.
So
Chairman Nell. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
just speaking to that, so part of your zoning is also has to do with providing services, just like your roadways. And I'm going to try to make this as broad as possible, but just like your roadways, you're trying to move people, you're trying to provide services, just like you don't want a miles long cul-de-sac just for the same reason he spoke of with pole patch. That's a big concern. You cram a ton of people into an area that you have a confined service point, and it becomes safety issues. You start to run into providing services become harder. Just like dead ends, you get water quality goes down. Yeah, that's part of your zoning as you come off the hill. Your upper hill is a combined area. It's limited access. It's harder to get water there. It's harder to get sewer off the hill. The roadways are more complicated getting off the hill, and the more people you pack up on the top side of all that. So I like to think that, or in my opinion, that is part of that zoning, and that would have been part of those discussions in the past. Is obviously, you have a water source at the bottom of the hill now, so that dynamics changed a lot. But back in 1966, when those were your only wells, and if you're using it up there, and that would have been a big deal. So I'm sure that's where that all comes about, but that's where that extension continues on, and why that zoning is important is we're factoring all the way off that hill with what that zoning shows. And the higher you do up there, the bigger lines you have to get you those services out of the city as well. So,
and just a quick follow-up, if I might, with that, Tyson, that you can address, is just as a reminder, part of the reason we do the general plan and the future land use map is that's to allow the staff and the people that have to do the budgets for the capital requests or the capital needs, they're using this map to say, what is the future look like and what would we have to plan? Could you maybe?
Yeah, and that would get into the sizing and ensuring that you have, the proper size for sewer mains to get all the waste off the hill and to your bigger systems, which then it just gets bigger as you come down away from those points. It's the same with roadways, as you're coming down the hill, they get bigger to accommodate more traffic and trying to move people off. So we use all of those. If you turn all the dark green into yellow and you've just, I don't know what I think it's quadruples the population on that side, you would have to reevaluate some things to ensure you could provide all those. Now, yes, during the subdivision process, all of that would be looked at again with each subdivision as it comes in with whatever is determined. But those are things that you would want to think about in zoning.
Chairman, could I address the general plan for a minute? In preparation for the meeting, I went back to review our general plan, and I don't know if the citizens here are aware. It's on the Pleasant View website. You can go to the general plan of Pleasant View. And when I read this part, it said the entire purpose of the general plan is to set a guiding vision of what Pleasant View City wants to become in the future. This document is intended to set overarching city policies, not just regarding land use and development, but virtually every facet of the community. And then when I looked on page 10, it said that the future land use plan reflects the community vision of maintaining Pleasant View's character. And when we look at the future land use map that I had printed out, and we've got it up there, it shows that area as A5. And if that is to be our guiding plan for the general plan, is the future land use map, this is a very weighty matter tonight, because basically we would be saying this plan that was put in place in 2017 with citizen input, we are going to overrule that input and do something different than what's in the general plan. And so I hate to put a lot of weight on it, but when I read the general plan, this is a very weighty issue tonight.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion items from the commission? Nope. Okay. I just wanted to sum up and make a comment. Having been through a couple rewrites of the general plan, I understand how passionate some of the citizens are, so we take it very seriously. We have citizens that come in and give great input on that. And so I've been through a few of those processes. So when we make a decision up here, we do try to really take into effect what has been in place or put into place for our interpretation. And just as a reminder, we are basically an interpretation of what's on the books and how do we move forward with that. And so this is the zoning. And so we really appreciate all of the feedback and comments on all the different issues that will go forward. And all those comments will come up again if it's ever zoned to something different or a subdivision goes into anything, whether it's A5, RE20 or A2 or anything else. Those items will have to be discussed. Just as a reminder, the landowner rights, the landowners do have the rights to come and keep petitioning. Some people say, why are we doing this again? Because that's what we're allowed to do as citizens. And that's what we want to be able to do, is offer them those rights to be able to come and look at those. Now, we need to look and make sure that the general plan matches what the citizens are looking for and the rights of the owners. So.
Chair Knapp, if you don't mind if I just reference, and I appreciate Commissioner Farr's comments on the general plan, but just as previously indicated, there is a spot in the text that is a bit conflicting with the map. And so I would recommend, depending on how you'd like to move this evening, you can utilize either reference, but also I'm recommending a cleanup item for the general plan, regardless of which action you take this evening, so that in the future it will be clear.
Great recommendation.
Yeah. In fact, that part I was looking at earlier, it said the rural residential designation applies to portions of the city shown on the future land use map, predominantly north of 4300 North, with the exception of the portion of the city which lies east of 500 West into the eastern city limits. So we've got that one statement. In our packet, you indicated that that one statement is a little bit ambiguous of how that can be interpreted.
And then there's a second statement just here as well on the same, the very low density residential. Yeah, so primarily located north of the Ogden-Brigham Canal to 4300 North to the eastern city limits, and from approximately 500 West to the eastern city limits, extending this land classification serves as a smooth transition between the much larger lots of the rural residential development pattern.
So kind of go back to Chad's comments and I was here when they went through that. This was a very heated topic of the future land use map, but to the point where they wanted to make sure the wording was in there to keep the citizens wanted to keep that area as it was. And so that's something that's probably been an ongoing topic, very close. So I agree that we probably want to get that cleared up as.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful, just, I mean, for the property owners as well as just generally for our plan.
So no matter what happens, we want to.
I think what's interesting on that, you've got that one sentence there, but then as you read on, it says to preserve the desired rural, and excuse me if I'm reading this, but I think this gives us the context. To preserve the desired rural and open fill, emphasis should be placed on the kind of future development in order to limit disturbance of watershed features and avoid geological risk. Development of this area should be either 5-acre lots or larger and be sensitive to concerns related to stormwater detention and control. Natural and historical geological hazards should also be avoided. Development in this area must also be sensitive to watershed issues, geologic formations, and other potential community impacts, including hillside and slope stability, view sheds, and natural environment. It should maintain a rural character. Large portions of this area should be left as open space and vegetation that will help preserve the watershed and water recharging attributes of this area of the city. Existing agriculture use should be encouraged within this area and appropriate protections from development provided. Preservation and protection of open space are a priority. So the fact is, you have one sentence that is a little bit ambiguous, and then basically you have a page and a half that's all saying why it should be A5. So I also think, looking at it, we probably need to look at making a correction in that so it is more clear. I know that we have addressed water, but can I simply say, I happened to be in a meeting with a state senator on Saturday, and he was talking about water, the Great Salt Lake and everything. And he told me, and I had to go look this up because I didn't believe that. I like to go back to the source. He said that 84% of the population of Utah get their water from aquifers in the Cache Valley, the lower Bear River area, and along the Wasatch Front. And that provides groundwater to 84% of Utah. And that to me was shocking. I went back, I wanted to fact check our senator, and actually it is a state of Utah thing. And he said all along the Wasatch Front, communities are updating general plans to create hillside ordinances to be more conservative.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Since we have no other comments, are we ready to make a motion at this time?
I'll make a motion that we recommend to the city council denying the request to rezone the property at approximately 500 west and 4300 north to RE20, along with a recommendation that the language in the general plan is modified to ensure that this property stays at its current designation.
And that'll be just a review. There'll be a recommendation that it's reviewed and it'll probably get sent back to us. Is that correct?
That is correct. Sorry, that's a different notice for public hearing requirement. So
that's fine. Whatever you say.
Muddy the waters, but yeah, thank you.
We have a motion on the table by Commissioner Park. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. There's a motion on the table. Do we have any discussion on the motion that's on the table at this time? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have one opposed. So noted. All right, thank you very much. We want to thank you for the audience coming and participating, and for the landowner for your presentation this night. This will go forward to the city council. We'll have to look for the date. I don't know the date that will be set.
We'll be working with the developer on refining that.
Okay, so that'll be defined however they want to move forward with that.
And we do have more items. We need 5 minutes.
5 minutes. We're going to go ahead and adjourn for a quick 5-minute break to allow the audience to leave. So we have a quiet, we are still being recorded. So, excuse me. We are still in a public hearing and we are being recorded. So we need to ask people to kind of hold it down for a minute. And we'll just take a 5-minute break if anybody needs to stretch for a minute while the audience leaves.
I'm going to be texting one of the developers for this one. I said I texted him before, but yeah, I think the next one will.
That's on purpose. You don't represent the builders, the developers. You represent the city. And the general plan represents the citizens of the. I was on the planning commission. And too often we think we're something. We're not.
We think that we need to, but I think really what it comes to the point of citizens, because of you, change something.
What do you do with it? And it's kind of interesting because, yeah.
Hey, I did want to find something. There is one thing that concerns me. This was given. I don't know, maybe other people are not.
I guess.
I probably, that's the in Route 1 way. That was an interesting one. That's surprising.
I was sitting up in here, by the way.
I want you guys to all know.
It's like me.
We should keep that in mind. Not for guys like us. Nobody would be here. Right? Horrible. I'm so
Thanks, Carson. Stuff really good.
Alfred did a very good job, though. It was very compelling.
On several things.
He did a good presentation.
But he's really put us back on a few because he tried to jump the line a little bit. So I'll smile when he comes because I really respect him. And, challenges. But it's like, I don't judge what people put on the book. But he comes in, I remember his dad comes in for just the transportation. That's how I got started this whole thing. Somebody put a couple more roundabouts.
I was thinking,
particularly
neighbor
that's on
with
my
5 acres.
Yeah. We got the big billboard. What's this on my property? Get that out of here. I want this. He starts just taking mark up the whole billboard. I'm like, not the whole thing. Okay, there's a lot of work done. I agree with you. I totally agree with what we just did, but I couldn't do that because I was so sick. So like, I'll never process. Who the crap was that? They go, oh, that's. I was like, oh, I just didn't recognize the things. It was just funny. He just got up and he did that. I was like, so I was smiling. Carson,
Yeah. And that's what I was.
Okay. Go back to business.
Like open ground.
Guys,
Places, everyone, places.
all right, thank you. For those that have stuck around with us tonight, I know it's been a long night. We'll go ahead and call the meeting back to order. For those still watching on Zoom or YouTube or whatever it is, we appreciate you hanging out with us for this evening. Let's go ahead and we'll move to item 4C, a rezone of 8 acres of land from planned manufacturing MP1 to manufacturing commercial mix zone MCM, located at 2709 North Rulon White Boulevard. So we'll go ahead and okay, we'll go ahead and have staff do a presentation on the next item.
I apologize. I guess there were some audio issues in the back with hearing me, so I'll try to be a little more clear. So before you this evening, and I don't believe the petitioners are here on this particular item, is a proposal for a rezone. Get there. Sorry. I think I'm going to go to the bookmarks to skip ahead. From MP1 planned manufacturing to manufacturing commercial mix MCM. And can you hear me in the back now? I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay. At 2705 North Rulon White Boulevard. And so the applicant is Jeff Beckstead. And the request is to look at the rezone of the property here. And the property to the front of this is currently the zone that's being proposed for the rezone. So it's the MCM and the MP1. And the reason for this, and you'll see this later in your packet, is for a desire to put in an RV and truck stop behind the existing gas station. And there was a little bit of a hiccup with the staff, and so that's why we're putting both on the agenda this evening. And so this is a recommendation for the city council regarding the rezone. If you decide to recommend this and then decide to look at the site plan for approval, we'd ask as staff that you do that contingent on approval from the city council of the rezone. Just because there was a little bit of hiccup with information provided and clarity in the zoning on this. And so very similar to the last request that we just discussed, the criteria to evaluate are the merits and compatibility of the proposed project with the general plan, looking at the surrounding land uses and the impact on the surrounding area. And with that, just going back to the zoning map, you'll see here. So the property right to the rear is that MP1, and then obviously right before is that manufacturing commercial mix. This is that concept plan that they've provided. Wanted to show you one more thing. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's not right here. I guess just back to the general plan map before. Oh, I don't know if I can get back there, but should have put it in this packet as well. It does show a consistency with the map and what is being proposed. Oh, here we go. Okay. So if you look down here, the manufacturing and the mixed use is actually what is called for in the general plan, which is actually right now it's manufacturing, but this is a conversion to the mixed use. But our manufacturing is somewhat of mixed use anyhow, but it furthers the mixed use by adding the commercial element. I don't know if there's any questions for me this evening.
And our petitioner's not here for this?
They're not here this evening, no. And we did have a couple of hiccups just with getting this on. And so I don't know if they had some confusion with having it on this evening or not, but they are not here, no.
Not online either.
No. The next petitioner will be online. I've got to text him.
Have you had any comments from people who live in that surrounding area or businesses?
We have not. No, we've received no public comments. We did the noticing required per city ordinance for 300 feet around the property and received no comment.
Thought we decided in an earlier meeting to not vote on something if the petitioner wasn't here.
It's not a firm rule, but it's something that you do have reservation to do if desired.
Yeah, and on that one earlier, it was such a simple thing.
Yeah, the building was already approved. Everything was approved. We were just kind of making that slice. This is a little bit more complex. And
I mean, I would have questions in regards to traffic flow and some things along that line that I'm not sure
And from staff, is
we
this
would be able to address.
4C, and then we bring this up again in item number 6, is that correct?
That is correct.
And so the petitioner won't be here to answer those questions either.
No, and I know that the petitioner wanted this moving quickly because they are in a bit of a time crunch, but they are not present this evening.
I'd like to propose a motion that we table item number 4C on the agenda, as well as item 6 on the agenda, until we can have the petitioner here to answer questions.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let's open up for discussion for the group here. My question is if we move forward with this with item 4C and then we do look at number 6, it's basically we're making a recommendation to the city council. And then I guess they can make any changes if anything that comes up between there and then and now, or if there's any staff changes or pros and cons to, I guess, and you're saying you have questions for the petitioner. We have,
Yes.
Be interesting to-
I would like to ask about the traffic flow and different things, knowing that it's like going in behind, right, the gas station.
Can I answer your question? I'm so sorry to interrupt. So that's done during the site plan process, not the rezone, like as
would
we.
that be number 6, right?
But that would be number 6, yes. So like, yeah, traffic flow, all the requirements for the site.
Yeah, don't they kind of go together? though,
In my
5 and
mind,
6?
Well, we have to rezone first, and then we come and look at the site plan.
And so, yeah, it does give you a couple of options. I think Commissioner Park, and obviously you've got that option if you feel most comfortable to table both, if you have questions for both. If you wanted to make a recommendation on the rezone for city council consideration and then table the site plan, or to move forward with either, it's completely up to you. And I think if there are questions, that's completely understandable if you don't feel comfortable proceeding.
Well, that is an option, is we could let this one go because we're recommending to city council, they can decide to move forward with it. But if you table number 6, it still requires them to come in and answer the questions on the site plan. So that is an option also.
Okay, so I'd like
That is a potential change to your.
I would
Our
like.
our next
discussion
meeting
items.
is soon. Isn't our next
That
meeting
is
in like
correct,
2 weeks?
because,
Thank you for coming.
I would like to withdraw my motion on tabling item number 4C at this time.
Okay, any other discussions or any other motions? We move forward at this time then?
I second the amended motion.
Okay. I don't think we need to vote on it since we didn't approve it, but we'll just go ahead and nix his, are you seconding his
Yes.
motion to change?
Yeah.
Or to not, he's just withdrawing his motion, so then we can just move forward. So let's go ahead and move forward with the rezone from MP1. Are there any other questions for staff, or are we able to make a motion at this time?
Yes, does anybody have any questions outside what we've already discussed so that we could just move it forward? Because it's just for evaluation.
Right, for a zone change, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
this is a public hearing. Thank you, Larry.
That's why we've
Good thing
got.
Laurie's here.
Make a motion that we open a public hearing. Can I have someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we open this to a public hearing.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Well, second.
Yeah, all in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody from the vast audience who would like to address the current topic on hand?
Nobody chatting online about it?
If none, we have to take a motion to close the public hearing.
Move that we close the public hearing.
Second that.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, if there's no other discussion, does anybody want to make a motion at this time?
Yes. I motion to change the zoning as requested per staff presentation based on the evaluation of the planning commission or the city council and site plan evaluation when we get that information.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Park. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have wrapped up the 4C, the public hearing conditions for tonight. We'll go ahead and move to site plan. Item 5, site plan for Boyer Pleasant View Warehouse. Site plan for the Boyer Pleasant View Warehouse located at 3205 North Highway 89. And I think we've already looked at the plot plan or the initial layout of this. Everybody knows it's out there on the west side of 89. Let's go ahead and review the site plan. I think the petitioner was going to join us by
They were going to join us via Zoom. I texted about 5 minutes ago and let them know we were ready to begin their item shortly and have not seen them hop on yet. I will say my anticipated timelines were very roughed. Not intentionally, I was optimistic.
I was watching that time limit.
So I don't know. I'm happy to begin with the
I would just,
presentation. Or
can we move to number 6 or now?
Yeah.
We're at number 5.
if you'd
All
like to
6 is
modify the
depends on-
order. Yeah.
Or is, let me ask the group, how do we want to move? Do we want to continue with site plan for the Boyer Pleasant View Warehouse at this time on number 5? Do we want to table it? Do we want to continue with our discussion, hoping the petitioner joins us?
Yeah, I think that's fine to move on to 6 and give them a few more minutes to see if they'll come on.
Okay, we have a motion to move to item 6. Do we have a second?
Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, now we'll move to 6, which should be pretty quick. Item number 6 is conditional use and site plan for RV and truck fuel station. Conditional use and site plan for the construction of an RV and truck fuel station located at 2709. You'll remember we just talked about this earlier.
And because the petitioner's not here, I don't know if you'd like me to move forward with the presentation or move forward with the motion.
I move that we table this item, item number 6 on the agenda, the proposed or the site plan for the
RV and truck fuel station.
Yeah, thank you. The site plan for the construction of an RV and truck fuel station at 2709 Rulin White Drive.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion on the table? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have tabled that. We now are coming back to item number 5.
So if there's any, I'm happy to start the presentation, but if there's any pre-standing questions for the developer, if you'd like to wait and table this, that is an option. Or if you'd like me to start the presentation and see if the developer is able to get on.
Any thoughts? Move forward, wait, or do we want to go ahead and make a motion? Or we can move forward and just do approval or denial. Either way, we've got 3 options.
I think we've kind of set precedent, haven't we, with the site plans to have those individuals here before we.
And I know that there were some questions just due to some construction activity on the site. So I don't know if there would be a desire to.
Okay,
so
would like to make a motion?
A motion for which one are we on now?
5.
Number 5. That we table number 5, the site plan for Boyer Pleasant View Warehouse until the next meeting.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second that one.
Okay. Any discussion on the item? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we now are on to 7, but we can skip to that and go to 6.5, which is our staff and communications.
I'm sorry.
I first want to thank everybody for their attendance tonight and doing a lot of due diligence. I know there's a lot of reading. I think the staff were putting together a 125-page packet. And lots of emails.
It was huge.
126.
Just the notes.
And then all the addendums that came with it. So, we appreciate the 2 of you being here.
Oh my
tonight.
goodness. I'd like to thank Dana and Tyson for helping me through getting prepared without a planner for this meeting.
Prepared for being here in case we were throwing
Oh,
twists of
absolutely.
questions. It was nice.
That as well. And Laurie for doing our
Available.
minutes. Oh my goodness.
So it's always a fun chore when we have a full audience like that, but it went very smooth, I think, because most of you have already done a lot of your legwork and prep work to understand a lot of that. I think it's important that we stress the importance of the general plan, and I think we'll be in the next few years, we're going to do some minor changes to it, but I think that's where we make sure we get the citizens come in and give their input and their suggestions on it, because that's kind of our guiding document that we need to go. That's why I always remind myself is, how do I judge what's on the table in front of me? If they come and petition for something, all we can do is interpret how it's written before us. Then if we want something changed, someone needs to come and we petition it. We make recommendations to the city council to make changes, either general plans or update to future land use maps, et cetera. And that's where we make our impact for the citizens. So thank you for doing the due diligence. Any other staff communicate or commission communications?
I was just going to say, I'm sorry, I read so much of that, but I thought it was helpful not only to refresh all of us, but for the citizens to actually hear what their general plan is, so that they will hopefully go and look it up and become familiar with it and then give more input.
You think it was well researched, well presented, you did a great job.
I agree.
So one question, normally we get a printout of the notice of the agenda. I might have been here too late.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I just forgot to bring those.
One of the problems I was having was I was trying to scroll up and down through, that
And
many pages.
I do, and I should have let you know this, I do bookmark these in the Adobe, so you can click each
Oh.
of the different items and what the heck?
Oh, look at her.
Sorry, how
Like
great.
magic. What is that?
So that's why I hesitated on that last motion, because I couldn't find it.
Scrambling. Yeah.
I have a blister from scrolling.
And so if you click the top, it always gets you back to the
Back
agenda.
to the top. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, no
So,
problem.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but I just a question. The rezone that we were considering, is this a different property owner than the last time this came before the commission? Or
I think it may be the same owner, but different developers working with the owner, from what I understood.
The ownership may have changed.
I'm sorry, I wasn't here before, so
The ownership's changed.
what? Oh, yes, I do.
It was under the Christopherson Family Trust the last time it came in 2019, and this time I believe it's,
I'm on the.
if you looked at your packet, I believe it was the Val
Paul?
Yep.
Yeah. I just wondered if, a different owner.
Oh,
again.
sorry. I got it wrong.
The developer has
This
a.
is why my
a hand in
staff's
it.
here to help clean me up.
Owner, same developer.
So to kind of go back with that and just kind of from a little history is, they come in and think, well, I can do it just slightly different. We'll change this, but they still have, they say it's my land rights. Well, part of it is they still, as landowners, are required to go see what is my zone. They're just not automatically saying, I'm a new landowner, that's what I want to do. They still have to go say, what's the general plan? What's the future land use map? What's it currently zoned at? Just because they buy it doesn't automatically say they can change.
And a few people brought the point up, and I thought it was good. We're not saying they can't develop that. It's just got to be developed within the parameters of where it's at. Exactly.
Jana,
Could I make one comment on something that I think should be? When we put this in our packet and it showed the letter to the Christopherson family, and then it had the map on the back, right? And the letter on the front is dated the 23rd of June, 1970. Because it was like this, it makes you think the map on the back went with this in 1970. I got a little magnifying glass to look down in the corner here, and it actually is dated 1977 on the map. And if you look at who commissioned it, it wasn't Pleasant View City. It wasn't Pleasant View City and Robert Christopherson. It was commissioned by Robert Christopherson. And I think this is important because it almost appeared to be one and the same, that Pleasant View City sent this letter and agreed to this subdivision here on the back, but they are two separate things. And I think that needs to be clear to the city council, because when he gave the history of the property, he made it sound like this is all one thing, and it is not.
Yeah, and that was an issue that came up in 2019, was the easement wasn't, and then it was thrown at us at the last minute, and they were throwing these maps at us. But I think that the thing that we keep in focus is, and I have two questions here for tonight, was what, and then maybe one of you can answer this, is from the easement, they're saying we've got a water line down there, and there is quote, no easement, and I know that has no bearing on what we were doing tonight. But what is a city, what,
Should
is
that
there,
be-
is there something that we need to do as a commission, go back and correct that? Or is that just wait till it is developed and then the easement will be worked out at that time?
It's prescriptive at this point with what's there. Like they can't
They can't
go and
change it,
alter or damage it or without consequences. But yeah, if you were going in and gonna develop that A5, RE20, whatever, then you would deal with that then and get it put in the right of way. And
So we don't need to go back and as a city and try to add or change anything. It's locked in as it is.
We basically have squatters' rights because
There you
we've
go.
been there for so long.
I was thinking that, but I thought I would just ask that. Okay, the second thing then is a quick question as far as our next meeting and dates. I just thought we'd better, since we've been bouncing around on our dates a little bit, that we ought to clarify what dates we're looking for November.
And we will need to get a date on the calendar also for your holiday party. And obviously we do allow you to invite a spouse, significant other, partner for a dinner. So that's something that
So right now, are we looking for 2 dates in November, 1 date in November? How are we looking?
2 dates in November. And so just with the first, we'd be looking at a meeting, and sorry, but it's just a couple of weeks away. That first Thursday in November. So it's November 3rd. Thank you. I should have this ingrained in my mind. And then if there's a date, and maybe we do the 17th, just because that's typically reserved for Planning Commission for a dinner to thank you all for your service and celebrate the holidays. And I know it's before December, and so if you'd like to move it into December, that's an option too. But I feel like December gets pretty busy, and we're planning on having a meeting the first Thursday in December. But we could always do a dinner after the meeting. You never know. Manya saying no.
Open to comments.
Not if it's,
headachy as it is.
yeah, not if it's a night like tonight.
I just hope for mornings. No, I lean over to Larry and I'm like, I love it when the public comes. So I've got problems. But
Okay, anything
Tyson's
else?
nodding.
Anything else from staff?
And just thank you so much for your professionalism this evening. I was really proud of how the Planning Commission conducted itself in, under a lot of pressure. And I really appreciate all of your insights. We value so much your opinions, your diversity of ideas and thoughts, and bringing those to the table for us, and your attendance. I know this is a very low gig, and very appreciative of what you contribute for the love of your city. So thank you.
Okay, Sarah, anything from the city council liaison? Anything that we need to be brought up on?
Our summer events went really well. They were well attended. We had a good turnout. I'm trying to think. Well, we had a short meeting today about Skyline Drive. There's more to come on that. It's looking really good. As also, what can I talk about? I don't know.
So awesome.
Well, yeah, that was great. I'm just trying to think of what else.
Oh, the city council.
Pickleball, there's more to come on that, with that conversation about pickleball, as well as the All Sports Park. You want to speak to that? No? Okay. So we're working in our committees. We're working, to just better move forward the projects and stuff that we're working on. I don't know what else to speak to.
No.
Well, he hasn't been formally introduced yet. Never mind.
Well, just wait.
Okay,
All right, take a motion that we adjourn tonight. All in
I
favor,
motion
say
we
aye.
adjourn tonight.
All in favor, say aye. We're done.
Aye.
Well done.
We're.
Oh, that's sweet. That's one I just got.